On today's show, Dr. Liz and I have a great discussion with Laura Hale. She sets the record straight about sexless marriages and opens up about practical ways to improve emotional and sexual intimacy. She also tackles differences in sexual desire and the numerous benefits of a healthy married sex life. Laura Hale is a UK relationship therapist specializing in sexless marriage and female sexual desire in long-term relationships. She works with couples and individuals worldwide to rebuild intimacy, emotional connection, and sexual confidence. With more than 20 years' experience in the mental health field, Laura focuses on the practical realities of long-term relationships, including desire mismatch, emotional disconnection, and the challenges couples face maintaining intimacy over time. Laura shares her insights through therapy, writing, and a YouTube channel followed by more than 30,000 subscribers, where she discusses relationships, intimacy, and the psychology of desire. We hope you enjoy the show.
Welcome to Stronger Marriage Connection. I'm psychologist Dr. Liz Hale, along with the beloved professor Dr. Dave Schramm. Together, we have dedicated our life's work to bringing you the best we have in valid marital research, along with a few tips and tools to help you create the marriage of your dreams. Well, Dave, this is a pretty sweet topic. I think, sexless marriages, they're far more common than most of us realize, and the impact is even deeper than many marriage therapists are trained to address. Today, we're going to talk about why sex matters in marriage and what's driving the sharp rise in sexlessness and how couples and their therapists can tackle it effectively. If you feel stuck in a sexless marriage, rejected by your spouse, or unsure how to bring back the closeness, desire, and connection, this segment is for you. Laura Hale is a relationship therapist specializing in sexless marriage, desire mismatch, and intimacy breakdown. What's the goal? She helps couples rebuild intimacy, trust, and sexual confidence. Welcome to Stronger Marriage Connection, Laura Hale.
Thank you for having me.
Dave and I are thrilled to be doing this topic. We're thrilled to have you as a professional helping us bring this topic to our key audience who we love and care about and who loves and cares about their marriages and in many regards about sex or sexlessness. For starters, my friend, a sexless marriage, I don't know why I have a hard time saying that. A sexless marriage doesn't mean zero sex. Is that right? What are the parameters and numbers you're referring to, please?
So the clinical definition is 10 or fewer times per year. Although I make the joke that the people who would like to be having plenty of sex and are having sex 11 times a year probably wouldn't consider their marriage to be in much better a spot than the people who are doing it 10 times. But that is the clinical definition, 10 times or fewer per year.
10 or less. Okay, that's good
Yes.
to know. What about the couples? And I have met them who say, well, once a month or less we're kind of satisfied for that. Do you agree with that? Is that okay? I guess if both partners are saying we have no problem.
That's it, Liz. I think if both people are happy, if it's 10 times or less and both people are happy, or no times at all and both people are genuinely satisfied, that's great. But that's not what we're talking about. It's the mismatch that hurts so profoundly.
Deeply. Yeah, thank you for clarifying. That's beautiful.
And Laura, I'm curious, as far as the numbers, the statistics, and the decline, it feels like things are declining rapidly over time. You say it was better in the 90s, and I'm curious, why was that? What's happening today that's so different?
Well, I think the big thing I've really pondered on this, and what I'm boiling it down to is that generally speaking, it feels true to say that men and women felt more positively about each other in the 90s. Men and women seem to like each other a lot more than they do now. So I don't think it's just that. I do think that's a major part of it, but I think the world has changed. I think that in the 90s, we went out more. We were more sociable. I think that the world was a very different place. We all we weren't all working as much. I think we're spread more thinly than we used to be. I think people are exhausted. I think that media is playing a part in it. I think the screen use is playing a major part in it. I think people are more disconnected. But I think perhaps one of the final things I'd say is that perhaps the medications as well. We're more medicated than we've ever been. Antidepressant use is I do think, a factor, because there are these medications do have an impact on sexual function. So that is part of the story too.
So many. Yeah, all kinds of things.
Yes,
wow.
I do think so. I think so. What I would say, as a final note, perhaps, is that the testosterone levels in the humans are lowering. I don't have huge amounts of information on that, but if that's news to you, it's worth taking a look at that. There are people speaking about that more fluently than I can, but I imagine that is playing a part too.
So I imagine then you advise, among other things, in working with couples, is to check on hormones.
Most certainly. That's one of the things that I definitely do. So what I tend to say to couples, if libido is zero, very low or next to nothing or nothing, what I would always encourage strongly couples to do is to go and see the people that would be able to help them with checking hormones, because again, that's not what I'm able to do. But what you don't want to do as a practitioner is to be treating for psychosexual problems when the issue is physiological. So it's good to rule that out so that you can then with more confidence push into the other things that might be causing it.
Mm-hmm. Well said. That's great advice. Typically speaking, Laura, it seems safe to say that most men request sexual intimacy. Most women request emotional intimacy. And I love how you remind us that we seem to hold a woman's desire for emotional needs up on a pedestal, right? While we criticize dear men for being shallow and entitled for having sexual needs. We've gone really askew, haven't we? How do we begin to get back on track?
Well, I think we need to start thinking about why we're all so upset about sex. It's a funny thing because again, back in different, the different eras, I think the 90s, we were having more fun there. I think of the 80s power ballads and how we were still crooning about our attraction for one another. And if you listen to the sort of popular music now, it's all got quite unpleasant. The tone has changed dramatically. So I'm a little curious about what that is. And yes, essentially how we get back is that perhaps we make friends with sex again, and we address any negative kind of feelings or hang-ups that we might have on an individual basis about that element of our relationships. It used to be that was a fun part of the attraction between men and women, and that's gone awry. So yes, what I would strongly encourage people to begin doing, if you feel, if it's self-reflection is needed here. If you feel that that's a negative thing, then something perhaps has happened to you or been said to you, or there's some kind of messaging going in that perhaps is not the most fun on the sexual front. Yes, because it makes sense to me that a sexual bond is no less beautiful and important than an emotional connection. So if that doesn't seem quite true to you, it's perhaps worth doing some investigating.
Well, and the sexual connection, that helps men feel emotionally connected, correct?
Massively so. I don't think it's possible for your average man to feel truly close to a woman if he doesn't have that. And I see, that's my work day in, day out. I see that that's the case. Yes, that's so again, I think, but it seems to me that a lot of women don't know that. And again, I'm not quite sure that I can't confirm the complex road that got us here as a species. But when you explain that to the average woman nowadays, she's quite shocked by that. That appears to be news. Women do seem to believe that sex is a kind of yes, that because for them that's not the priority, so they assume that men are experiencing it the same way. But I'm here to say that they are most definitely not.
Mm-hmm. Gosh.
We'll be right back after this brief message. And we're back. Well, let's dive right in.
It seems that there's a gender war going on. In what ways do you feel, Laura, that feminism, the movement, has hurt us as couples?
Well, essentially, it seems to have led us all to believe that men seem to have something of ill intent for women. Their intentions for women are bad, that they're trying to stop women from doing well, that they're holding women back. And that's sort of best case scenario. Worst case scenario is that essentially, and it's not modern feminism. I'm not an expert, I should say, on feminism. It's quite complex when you start to look into it. I wouldn't say it's just modern feminism that's done it. When you have a look at the origin story of feminism, it does seem that it was steeped in a level of negativity and ideas sort of around male tyranny over women. So that has continued over the eras, and what we appear to be left with, yes, is a suspicion, a deeply held suspicion that men are essentially trying to harm us, and that's led to a distinct lack of faith between men and women, and certainly from as far as women are concerned. And I have to say, I do see that in my work a lot, that women don't trust men's intentions. There is a level of disrespect, and disregard. I think that we perhaps, it's interfered with the faith and the trust that men and women have, as far as I can tell. I'm not saying that that's the whole story. I don't think it's all feminism's fault, but what does seem to be clear is that it's had a major impact on all of our lives. It's also changed the way that we run things. So perhaps we don't have as much time for one another. You know, in most families now, men and women are working. So it's changed the structure of family. It's changed the structure of marriage. That's what I'd have to say on that.
Time, that is a crucial one. I would have to say, Dave, would you think so too?
Yeah.
We're just so darn busy. To me, that was the greatest gift of COVID when COVID first broke out. I remember thinking just before COVID, it's like, gosh, did I cause this? Because I had this thought that the world is turning crazily. We are so darn busy. I just wish I could stop. And sooner or later it happened with COVID. But it was, some of my couples will actually talk about the peace that came from their homes. They both started working at home. Children were at home. There was some really great things about that. I think it's just a note we need to remember. So women are suspicious of men. Are men as suspicious of women as well?
That's a good question. I don't think so. That's not what I get. What the general energy that I see from men towards women, towards their woman and women generally, is profound care. Men literally fall over themselves to try to work out what they can do to support their women, to love, I can say that hand on heart, that is almost all the people that I work with. That's what I see. But that's not what she feels, which is fascinating.
Oh, it is. Thank you for declaring that. I would agree as well. Marriage therapist.
Yeah,
it's really
curious, Laura.
sad.
Oh, yeah, please go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's really sad. I would say it is a tragedy, a silent tragedy playing out in homes across the world. That mistrust, that upset is there. I honestly cannot stress that enough. It's heartbreaking to see it.
Wow. I would love to talk sometime about how you get women's attention, and maybe that will come in our interview.
Yeah. I'm curious, Laura, it seems that female sexual desire often changes in marriage maybe more quickly, over time than men's sexual desire. So I'm curious, is that true? And it seems like, sadly, that the best kept secret we don't talk nearly enough about is spontaneous desire versus this responsive desire, this delayed desire, especially for women. Can you describe this important right? This difference?
Yeah, of course I can. So what I would say, generally speaking, is that male desire, male libido is more robust than female desire and female libido. And that is partly linked to the difference in testosterone levels, that generally speaking, male testosterone levels are through the roof compared to women's. So that's an important thing to say. Much more robust. So a woman will say, I'm thinking about the kids and the dog needs that. And there's, we've got that thing on Thursday and, oh God, dad's poorly, so it's anything can turn the light off. Or this, I think of it like a male libido is a sort of healthy, sort of roaring fire, and a female libido is like the pilot light in your boiler. It's sort of alive and it's light, but it's it's a delicate thing. And I think that essentially what I've landed on in terms of sort of psychosexual and sexual health for women is that your sexuality, your psychosexual health, your sexual health is something that that you want to nurture and care for. You've got to see that thing as a delicate part of yourself that requires love and forethought and consideration. And perhaps what keeps you functional and healthy in that way varies slightly from woman to woman. But the takeaway is that you want to think about it as something that you cherish and that you care for. I don't know that men need to do that in the same way. Generally speaking, I think men can be like at war in the middle of a fight. And if you say to your husband, do you want to have sex now? He'd be like, yeah, no problem. But women will tell you, if like we've just had a fight, she's not going to be into it. So it's like all men will say, all the lights need to be green to get her there. I have to move everything out of the way. And still, even if you do that, you might just fall at the last hurdle. So there's that. So we've got different, we are different in that way. And then the spontaneous desire, responsive desire, that when we talk about that, we're essentially talking about the baselines again, that generally speaking, men are good to go. Most of the time that they will tell you that they think about it a lot. Just a look of if they see a wrist or an ankle, anything, any kind of sexual visual cue will start the rumblings of desire. Whereas for women, generally speaking, they're not experiencing that day to day. You have to start the process, get her into bed, hopefully relax, start to go through the motions of sexual behavior, and then she'll start to the the fire will start to kind of respond. So that's what we mean. And again, a lot of people don't know these things.
Mm-hmm. And women, I would think, gosh, okay, because I am one, maybe I can say this more easily, Dave, that we're wonderfully complicated, but I think there's also a responsibility on this end, right? To keep ourselves available and open, and realizing, okay, so what gets my head in the game here? Because this is really important to me. So what do I, Liz, what do I as a woman need to do to do my part? It's not his responsibility.
No, that's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. I'd say it works the other way around with conversation. My husband's not exactly he can really take or leave deep, long conversations, but he knows, because I love talking, and I for me, I want a companion and somebody who can meet me at my level, which is no small order, I can tell you. He's had to get himself into that place where he's available for me in that way, and that's required decades of work on his part for complex reasons that I won't go into, but that's love. That's we're being called to develop ourselves so that we are compatible along the road.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. We can make ourselves more compatible, right? Better partners by our own personal changes. All right, friends. So sexual intimacy, a need or a want?
I love this question. It's such a great question. It depends whether we are talking about surviving or thriving. What I would say is that in order to survive, yes, I guess you could say we don't need sex. People will survive without that. But will they thrive? No, they absolutely won't. And it's the same, when you learn about child development, you learn very, very early on about the difference between what it takes to help a baby thrive and what it will take to just keep your baby alive. They're two different things, but I'm not satisfied with just surviving. I think, we're far more capable of doing way better than just surviving this crazy thing called life. So is it, will we survive without sex? Yes. But, for a huge amount of people, they will suffer tremendously. They won't die, but they will live, but they will not thrive. So that's my answer to that.
I love that answer, Laura, because in my mind, we're born with at least three core needs: safety, emotional and physical safety, satisfaction, doing things that bring joy in life, and then connection. And it feels like sexual intimacy is one of those few things that can meet, all three needs. If I feel emotionally safe, this is satisfying, pleasurable, but also it's this deep connection, this longing for belonging, to connect with another person. And so I love that. Yeah. Thriving versus surviving. That's brilliant. Yeah.
It's the ultimate exchange, isn't it? It's the I can't think of a more vulnerable, significant exchange. It's literally to give and receive. It's that flow of energy between people. And that's what life, it's like at the center of existence itself, this phenomenal, the fabric of existence is, it's the exchange of energy, the giving and receiving. And something's going on for us as a species where we've become blocked. We talk about boundaries. We talk about the need for independence. And I'm not saying that those things aren't important, but we've forgotten that open exchange, that open and open-hearted willingness to both give and receive is it's the elixir of life, isn't it? If that stops, then where are you?
Oh, beautifully said.
We'll be right back after this brief message. And we're back. Well, let's dive right in.
Laura, we know that there's numerous benefits. We just talked about some of those, right? Of that need for connection or for safety, that satisfaction. But there's also other benefits, right? Numerous benefits of a healthy marital sex life, even benefits to children in a way, because that spillover effect, right? So physical, mental benefits. Can you share a little bit about some of the overall benefits?
I absolutely can. I'm just going to refer to my list a little bit here because I didn't want to miss anything, because I think, again, people have forgotten. It's a long list. It's absolutely right. And people perhaps will benefit from knowing that it's a relatively long list. So I'm going to start with the individual. So this is benefits to the individual. So what we know about the numerous benefits so this is a marital sex life. It's specifically marital sex life. So starting with the individual, what we'll see is improved cardiovascular health. Heart's quite important. So, one of the ways that you can look after that thing is by having sex with your husband or your wife. Boosted immunity. So it's interesting, isn't it? People do seem ever so poorly a lot of the time. I don't know if you see that, but people have often got sniffles. And I sort of dread saying this, but I don't tend to get very ill, and I wonder if it's that I know these things. So boosted immunity, pain reduction. So people who are having lots of lovely sex with their spouse, they're not in as much pain. Reduced mortality risk, so you're less likely to die. I'd say that's a bonus, isn't it? Just for getting it on. Enhanced mental health. We talk a lot, don't we, about mental health, but nobody's saying, and it's ever so strange. I've noticed this in our profession. It's like tumbleweed when it comes to sex. Nobody's saying, it's not a common topic. I don't know about you, Liz, but on my training, sex was not mentioned once. So that's 3 years of training, and sex wasn't mentioned once, which is fascinating. Improved memory, reduced stress, lower blood pressure. So that's a lot for the individual. For the couple, increased emotional intimacy. So for the ladies who are interested in that emotional closeness, increase your sex life, improve your sex life, and you'll be closer emotionally too. Higher relationship satisfaction. So people who are having regular, pleasurable, mutually enjoyable sex, they're more satisfied in their marriages. Lower divorce rates, stronger trust, improved conflict resolution, increased relationship longevity. And now, just to finish off, as you asked, Dave, about the benefits to the family. So a connected, affectionate, personal bond between parents creates more stability, more security, and healthier models of adult relationship. So, and we talk about that, don't we, strongly in child development. Again, what's wrong with the kids? What's wrong with the kids? What's happening to our kids? Well, our marriages are one of the things that I think people are not talking about, the impact that a poor marriage has on children's health. Parents who are lovers, and I mean specifically lovers, generally speaking, are happier and healthier. The household is warmer. And we know that children who grow up in warm, playful, positive home environments fare better across the board for the rest of their lives. So that's massive, isn't it? That's my list. Sorry for reading, but I didn't want to miss anything.
Whoa.
Isn't it? If that doesn't get our attention, I don't know what would.
Yes, it's better than going to the gym.
Yeah, I think
it would not that that's. Obviously, I know the benefits of the gym, but in terms of your health, it's a regular sex life is studied to be and proven to be better for your health than regular exercise.
Yeah, for the body and the mind. Yeah, and the relationship. I mean, it's amazing. Yeah.
Body, mind, probably soul, right? I'm sure it's spiritual connection also.
That's absolutely right, Liz.
Powerful.
That's right. Yeah.
Ah, gosh. I was struck and saddened by a follower's comment on your site who described discussing sex with his wife. He said, talking about sex with her is like crawling across a minefield that already took my arms and legs. Ow. Oh boy, that's powerful. In order to start a conversation with a partner, where should men start? We'll start there, please.
So I'd start with a reality check, because what surprised me about the feedback that we've got just through talking about this subject on the internet, what surprised me is that men didn't understand how important sex was. Not all men, but huge amounts of men hadn't come to understand these things for themselves. A lot of men say, I thought I was crazy. I've been told that my desire for my wife is almost like a sickness. So a reality check is the first place to start. That your desire for a mutually positive and satisfying sex life, a connection with your partner, is healthy. So that's where you start. And if that's what you want to do is a bit of work, if it's necessary, if you need to do some work around that information till it feels solid within yourself, that's something that you want to have an amount of solidity with before you go to speak to your partner about it, if that makes sense. Yes. So it's healthy, legitimate, and normal to want a mutually satisfying sex life with your partner. So that's where I would start. I'd then say to perhaps watch for anger if and understandably, if you've suffered a lack of sex, because I was thinking about that before we came on. Imagine if you fit the category of sexless marriage, so 10 times or less, depending on how long your sexual encounter will last. Just imagine that over the course of a year, say we say an hour of your year is spent having sex. That's it. I don't know how many hours and minutes there are in a year, but that's not a lot of minutes. It's not a lot of hours. So you're really suffering, and it's likely that frustration, anger has built up, but you want to be doing whatever you can to try not to bring that anger into the conversation. I would suggest that you perhaps learn about female desire, consider her psychosexual health as well. Ask yourself I would strongly encourage people to consider where their partners who are not wanting sex might be at, generally speaking. Is he or she enjoying their life generally? Are they connected or generally disconnected? So start to build a picture of perhaps what might be going on. Communicate clearly, approach with curiosity, not accusation. And then the last thing I would say is not to let yourself be fobbed off. So go back to point A. Remember that it's normal and valid and healthy to want that connection, and to keep trying. Don't give up. And if you need help because it's not moving, get help.
Yes. Get help, as in contacting you, Laura Howe. I love so many of your. I love so many of your suggestions. One especially struck me: man to a woman. When he wants to bring this topic up, is I feel most connected to you when we're sexually intimate, but I feel lost and abandoned when we're not. Wow, that's a powerful line. That's powerful truth for a man to speak. I can't help but think that would get a woman's attention, but if it doesn't, how do we reach women? You and I both agree there is a lack of disrespect, an increase in suspicion.
Absolutely.
What do we do?
Yeah, so
how do we reach us?
Well, I don't like to think of this on a universal level. I like to think about each case on a case by case basis. For me, it's like arriving in a mystery. It's like solving a puzzle. So to approach it with curiosity rather than accusation and blame. What's happened that this is happening? What's the complex story here? Tell me about your childhood. Tell me what your culture told you about sex. Tell me how you feel about your body. Tell me how you feel about life. Do you experience joy? Do you have a relationship with nature? Are you passionate generally? Are you on so many medications that you can't feel your toes, let alone your clitoris? I mean, you want to think about this like you are really solving a puzzle, and to do that with compassion and kindness and curiosity. But I mean, you have to make friends with the people that you're trying to work with. You have to, I don't mean that obviously literally. I mean that it has to be a positive experience. You want the people that you're trying to help to get a sense that you care for their story and for what might be going on. So yes, a case by case basis, be interested, ask questions. Yes.
And really maybe question ourselves as women. It's like, where did I learn just respect along the way?
Yes, absolutely.
A really good husband. And do I come across that way to him? Does he know how good I think he is? Or am I suspicious? And where did that come from? I love the curiosity for self and for each other, maybe in our marriages.
You really hit something there, Liz, because a huge amount of the time, I think a lot of the general public haven't considered this. I think it's so known to you as a practitioner within the field of psychology that your relationship with your parents has a significant impact on the way you feel about the world, and certainly the way that you feel about the opposite sex, and possibly and likely it will impact the way that you feel about yourself. How my relationship with my mother had an impact on my feelings about being a woman. So yes, I think that a lot of people bring these complexities to the sexual landscape, and they're none the wiser. And when you say, have you considered how anxious the fact that you're so anxious might be to do with the fact that your mum wasn't really very much there for you? It's like, no, I hadn't considered that. Do you think that you may have had some anger towards your mother as a kid, and maybe you're projecting that onto your wife? I mean, these are complex things. And when you first explain these theories, sort of Freud's repetition compulsion, people look at you aghast, and it's like, I don't know what you're talking about, Laura. But you have to start that work with people. And if that's there, that's the depth work that you will have to go through if you're going to create, a mutually respectful marriage. Yes, that's going to be there too.
Maybe we as women anyway, maybe speak for myself, start by changing my viewfinder, right? My new spectacles of how do I really see this good man in front of me?
We'll be right back after this brief message. And we're back. Well, let's dive right in.
Laura, you have numerous resources and online services, my friend. Where can our friends here on Stronger Marriage Connection find you and your podcast?
You can find me on YouTube at Laura Hale. You can find me on Instagram at Laura Hale. I think Facebook too. My social media expert, Russell, that's my husband. He's doing all of that. I don't pay too much attention to it, but apparently you can get me there too. But the main place is YouTube and my website as well. So laurahale.com.
Just laurahale.com. We'll be certain to add these tremendous resources to our show notes, Laura.
Literally. Yeah, so very helpful, Laura. As we prepare to wrap up our conversation today, Laura, we have a couple of questions we'd like to ask. We ask all our guests. The first one is, what do you feel like is a key to a stronger marriage connection?
That's such a good question. Make your marriage the priority. Really, though, that means that you really do have to put the in-laws further away, and perhaps consider where, how much of your life work takes up. Even the kids need to go, down the rungs on the ladder. So that for me is a big one. But also personal growth. I do believe that in part the quality of your marriage is going to come down to how well you're doing, within yourself. And that's an amazing project to keep underway throughout the course of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. What about a take-home message? Is there something you want our listeners to remember from our discussion today? A take-home, we call it a takeaway of the day.
Yes, I think it would be to aim to create a playful marriage. Your spouse is, I often am humbled and just, I don't know, brought to a good place when I ponder on how much my husband has brought me. He's this, I think of us like power sources, and we're both of us powering the enterprise that is our life. So you want to keep topping up that thing, not diminishing it. So it's like, I can't hurt my husband without hurting our son. I can't hurt my husband without hurting myself. You want to aim for play. You're doing a really good job with your marriage if it feels predominantly pleasant and playful. You find yourself thinking, this is a lot of fun, and you have to, and that's not a small task. That a lot of work needs to be done to get yourself into that place as a couple. But I cannot think of anything more meaningful than that. When your marriage is in tip-top, rosy, shiny condition, and let me tell you, that is possible, and it will change the way your skin looks. It will make you glow from the inside. So make it the project of your life that your marriage becomes this shiny, joyous, playful, energetic, amazing thing. And I'm going to say it again. It is possible. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise, because it's not true.
Yeah.
Wow. Yes, indeed. Wow. What's your takeaway of the day, Laura?
So many things. So many things, my friends. Well, that's just a great beauty ad right there, right?
Yes, it is.
Of keeping your marriage shiny and joyous and playful, and your skin will follow in line. I think that's so lovely. I really love the reminder of all the benefits of a healthy sexual marriage. It's just so beautiful. And the benefits that it brings children, when their parents have that healthy sexual connection and glow. I just could not have said it better. Thank you, Laura, so much. And I think also just women, the power we have as women, quite honestly. I think we are incredibly powerful. And I hope that that's not missed to our listeners and viewers today. Dave, what about you? What stood out most to you from our time today with Laura Hale? Finally, we got to see Laura Hale. Isn't it a treat?
Yeah, such an honor to have Laura on. I think some of this about this intentionality of, life gets busy, and often that relationship gets pushed to the back because you're tired or kids or work or stress, all this other stuff. And then it creates this slow, emotional, wedge between us, and we're a little bit more short and stressed and tired, and we just don't make time for each other. So it has to be talked about. We can't ignore that. I think, that comment about, am I going through a minefield, and do I bring it up or not? And sometimes men are just like, it's not even worth the chance of a rejection. So I'm not even going to bring it up. I think talking about it, being more intentional about the discussions, making time for each other, put away the electronics, going for a walk. You have to connect. There's something about touch, my friends. There's something about physical touch, that is healing. Laura, you talked about some of those health benefits that is real there. There is that real energy, that connection is very real. And yeah, that I like to say lack of attention leads to loss of connection. You've got to be mindful attention, to each other. So Laura, this has been so well.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, what a gift.
Yeah. Wow. Well, Laura, thank you so much for making time again from all across the pond, as we like to say, for making time to come on and share so much, wisdom, knowledge with us. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. It's been very good to be here.
Oh, all right, friends. That does it for us. We will see you next time on another episode of the Stronger Marriage Connection podcast.
And remember, it's the small and simple things that create a stronger marriage connection. Take care now.
Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, do us a favor and take a second to subscribe to our podcast and the Utah Marriage Commission YouTube channel at Utah Marriage Commission, where you can watch this and every episode of the show. Be sure to smash the like button, leave a comment, and share this episode with a friend. You can also follow and interact with us on Instagram at Stronger Marriage Live and Facebook at Stronger Marriage. So be sure to share with us which topics you loved or which guests we should have on the show next. If you want even more resources to improve your marriage or relationship connection, visit strongermarriage.org, where you'll find free workshops, e-courses, in-depth webinars, relationship surveys, and more. Each episode of Stronger Marriage Connection is hosted and sponsored by the Utah Marriage Commission at Utah State University. And finally, a big thanks to our producer, Rex Polanis, and the team at Utah State University, and you, our audience. You make this show possible. The opinions, findings, conclusions, and recommendations expressed in this podcast do not necessarily reflect the views of the Utah Marriage Commission.